When it comes to Marvel Comics, there are a handful of characters who rise far beyond the normal scale of heroes and villains. These aren't just powerful beings, they are reality shapers, creators, and gods in their own right. Two such extraordinary figures are Loki, the God of Stories, and Franklin Richards, the mutant child of Reed Richards and Susan Storm from the Fantastic Four. Both of them stand as titans in the Marvel Multiverse, not simply because of their powers, but because of the concepts they represent. Loki as the God of Stories is not just a trickster anymore, he is a writer of fate itself. Franklin Richards, on the other hand, is not just a powerful mutant, he is a living engine of creation, a being who can bring entire universes into existence. Fans often ask, what would happen if these two confronted each other? Would Franklin's raw ability to build realities overwhelm Loki's narrative control? Or would Loki, with the pen of destiny in his hands, simply rewrite Franklin's story before he could act? This is more than just a clash of powers, it is a clash of philosophies. Creation versus storytelling. Reality versus narrative. Let us explore who truly holds the crown in this ultimate cosmic duel. Franklin Richards, the mutant creator? Franklin Richards is no ordinary child. From birth, he carried inside him the spark of creation itself. Classified as an Omega-level mutant, Franklin's power goes beyond bending the rules of the universe, he can write entirely new ones. He is capable of constructing complete universes, filled with galaxies, planets, and life. This isn't theoretical, Franklin has demonstrated it time and again in the comics. At one point, Franklin created an entire pocket universe to save heroes from destruction. This wasn't an illusion or a temporary construct, it was a fully functioning universe with its own timeline and rules of existence. Cosmic entities, including the Celestials, recognized his potential and even feared it. Some regarded Franklin as someone who could grow to stand among the most powerful beings in Marvel, rivaling the living tribunal and beyond. But Franklin is not without limitations. His power, though vast, has been shown to fluctuate depending on his age, emotional state, and the narrative needs of Marvel's universe. Sometimes he is depicted as nearly omnipotent, capable of rewriting anything at will. Other times, he struggles, and his abilities are portrayed as something that can burn out or fade with time. In more recent comics, Franklin's powers even faced a major retcon, where it was implied that his universe-creating ability was not purely mutant in origin. Still, Franklin's feats cannot be denied. He has created realities, resurrected the impossible, and reshaped existence itself. In terms of raw, practical creation power, Franklin stands as one of the greatest forces in Marvel Comics. But how does he fare against someone who doesn't just create stories, but commands them? Loki, the God of Stories. Loki's journey is one of transformation. From a trickster god who thrived on chaos and deceit, to a villain who stood in the shadow of Thor, Loki was trapped in a cycle of evil, failure, and rebirth. But in the storyline Agent of Asgard, Loki broke free from that cycle. He faced his darker self, known as King Loki, and chose to become something greater. That rebirth gave us the God of Stories, one of the most fascinating and unique versions of Loki ever written. As the God of Stories, Loki does not simply cast illusions or manipulate magic. His powers operate on a higher plane of reality, the plane of narrative. In Marvel, stories and reality are deeply tied together. To control a story is to control reality itself. Loki in this form has the ability to rewrite destiny, reshape the flow of events, and alter the very narrative of the universe. If Franklin builds the house, Loki holds the pen that writes who lives inside it, how long it stands, and how its tale unfolds. This makes Loki's power both abstract and terrifying. While Franklin's abilities are measurable in terms of universes created, Loki's are meta-level. He isn't bound by the same cosmic laws, because stories themselves shape those laws. He can, in theory, decide that Franklin's powers have no effect, because that is the story he wishes to tell. However, there's a catch. Much like Franklin's fluctuating levels of power, Loki's God of Stories form depends heavily on the way Marvel's narrative portrays him. He doesn't always show up as this all-powerful storyteller. But when he does, he becomes a being who operates outside the normal structure of Marvel's cosmic hierarchy. That is why fans compare him to the likes of the Living Tribunal, the Beyonder, and even the One Above All. The battle of creation versus narrative? Now imagine this confrontation. Franklin Richards, with the power to create entire universes, standing against Loki, who can rewrite the meaning of any universe. Franklin could summon galaxies, reshape existence, and manifest realities in an instant. Loki could watch all of that unfold and with a single stroke of his narrative powers, decide that Franklin's creations were nothing more than footnotes in his story. On one level, Franklin has the edge in sheer practical feats. He has actually created universes, saved countless lives, and proven his might against cosmic forces. His track record is undeniable. On another level, Loki has an advantage that transcends feats. Narrative control is something that exists outside the logic of power scaling. It is a meta ability. Loki doesn't need to overpower Franklin's creations physically. He can alter the story so that Franklin never gets to create them in the first place. Think of it this way. If Franklin is the architect who builds a skyscraper, Loki is the author who writes whether the skyscraper exists in the book at all. If the story says the skyscraper was never built, then it never was. This puts Loki in a position of supreme authority, at least in theory. But the key here is application. Franklin's feats are consistent and direct. Loki's God of Stories powers, while incredibly impressive, are used sparingly and often more as a concept than a constant reality. In a straightforward battle where Franklin unleashes his full potential, Loki may struggle to match the raw force of creation. In a battle of narrative, however, Loki could win without lifting a finger. Final verdict: who wins? So, who wins the ultimate battle between Loki God of Stories and Franklin Richards? The answer depends entirely on the battlefield. If this is a clash of raw power, creation, and cosmic energy, Franklin Richards has the advantage. His feats prove that he can build realities, overpower entities beyond imagination, and stand as one of Marvel's greatest forces of creation. But if the battle is fought on the level of narrative control, destiny, and meta-reality, then Loki takes the crown. As the God of Stories, Loki operates beyond the scale of feats. He is not just a participant in the Marvel Universe, he is the one who holds the pen. He can decide how the story ends, and in a universe where story equals reality, that makes him arguably untouchable. The final result is this. On the battlefield of universes and creation, Franklin Richards wins. On the battlefield of narrative and destiny, Loki God of Stories wins. In truth, the answer is not about who is stronger, but about which domain holds more weight, creation or story. Perhaps the ultimate lesson here is that these two are not enemies but reflections of each other. Franklin builds the universes, and Loki writes the tales that give those universes meaning. So, when fans ask who would win between Franklin Richards and Loki God of Stories, the honest answer is this: it depends on whether you believe creation defines the story, or whether the story defines creation. Check out my other videos for more epic character crossovers and battles. Thanks for watching, and stay happy and healthy.